We will send a replay recording of the session in a few days. Please submit your questions throughout the session by selecting the Q&A button. We will address them at the end of the discussion. We are almost ready to begin. Welcome to this creative session with WellSaid Labs. Today, I'm pleased to introduce two members of the WellSaid team. Marta is a customer success manager and is going to show us best practices for creating incredible voice content in the studio. Caroline is on our marketing team and will be facilitating the discussion. Let's get started.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We're so excited to see all of your introductions there in the chat. And I have to thank my coworker, Tilda, who you just heard. If that voice sounds familiar, she's one of our WellSaid Labs studio avatars that you can use in your next project if she's available in your subscription tier. So thank you, Tilda, for that lovely intro. As she said, my name is Caroline Hoy, and I am on the marketing team here at WellSaid. I want to thank you again for coming, and I think we're going to learn a whole lot today from Marta. So a couple reminders before we get started. We will be sending a replay recording. So if you want to share this with some of your colleagues later, or you need to leave early, don't worry, we got you covered. And we're going to send you all this great information in a recording, as well as posting it to our blog and our social media. So please do share that with anyone you think could benefit from this. All right, well, let's get to talking to Marta. Marta Mueller is an absolute expert on studio here. I think I'm even going to learn a few things from her. And I know some of you in the chat have already recognized her as potentially one of your customer success managers. So she's going to show us some of the best practices for getting the most possible out of studio, some tips and tricks, and probably some things that you can use in your very next project. So I can't wait to see what she has to show us. Marta, where should we start?
Awesome. Thank you so much for the warm introduction, and thanks so much for everyone joining here. It's awesome seeing people from all over the US. I think we got some Canada in there, maybe all over the world. I don't know. That's fantastic. So to get started today, just to kind of echo a couple housekeeping items that Caroline said, if you have any questions throughout this webinar, please ask them in the Q&A button and not the chat. We'll do our best to get to all of those questions at the end of the presentation. However, if we're unable to get to your questions, we will follow up with you via email afterwards, so no worries there. So without further ado, how I want to actually get things started today is I want to show you an end production, some kind of content that you're able to create with WellSaid Labs. And then we will actually go through and deconstruct how I made that end production and tips and tricks for how you can use Studio to make this kind of great content. So I am going to start sharing my screen again and pull up that example. One second here, everyone. Great. So I'm just going to expand this. Like I said, an end production video, it's just over a minute long. Let's listen to this.
Labs community. With WellSaid, you and your team can create voiceover for all your digital content. All it takes is one click, and today we'll be learning how. First, let's talk a little about who I am. My name is Tobin, and I'm a WellSaid Labs voice avatar. A voice avatar is an AI-powered narrator that sounds natural. At WellSaid, we create voice avatars using the voices of real people. We work closely with brands and voice actors to design the style and personality of the voice avatar in accordance with the type of content to be produced with it. We then apply our proprietary artificial intelligence technology to convert the narration into a natural-sounding AI model. Synthetic voices are not new. In fact, we invite you to speak aloud how you imagine a computer sounds. Seriously, go ahead. Did you just speak like a robot? The way you naturally speak is closer to how a WellSaid voice avatar sounds. That is the level of humanity we seek to enable. The right voice avatar accomplishes more than simply deploying voice at scale. The right voice avatar captures the essence of the person who lends us their voice to create an AI model. Brands and content creators who care about quality understand the difference between just creating a lot of content and producing the highest quality possible for their audiences to enjoy. Now, I'll hand things back to Marta.
Awesome. Thanks, Tobin. So in that end production, we were using Tobin as the AI voice speaking, and then, just adding in some additional images, some moving images, visuals, as well as some background music. So let's take a step back and talk about how we can actually create a production like this. So to do so, I'm just going to jump back into Studio here. So I'm going to delete that example. So when you have the idea of the content that you want to create, you have your script, you have everything ready. Now you just need to create that voiceover. The first thing you want to do is actually select your voice avatar. And we like to think of this as almost auditioning your voice avatars. You can click the bottom right corner for more avatars to see all the different avatars we have available. In WellSaid Studio, we have 37 voice avatars, 3 different styles, as well as 6 different accents. When you click more avatars, you actually have the ability to get a preview of what they sound like by selecting this play button. So for example, let's see how Sophia sounds.
Your creative life will evolve in ways that you can't possibly imagine.
So she sounds pretty good, right? And as I'm kind of going through and previewing these different avatars and auditioning them, I would love for people to throw in the chat who your favorite avatar is. I know a lot of people have their favorites. I see somebody just said Ava is the absolute best. Wade, yep, Tobin. A lot of different answers. I know I totally pick favorites. I have some of my favorites, which we'll get into there in a second. But as you can see, as you're auditioning these different voice avatars, you have a bunch of different options here. Also highlighting the different styles. So the 3 different styles are narration, promo, and conversational. Narration is a bit more of that storytelling type style. Promo, promotional, kind of the exciting type advertising voice. As well as we just added conversational as a new style, which is more of that kind of informal, talking with a friend type style. Some of them have all three, and some of them just have one. For example, Wade, who I can see in the chats, is definitely a crowd favorite. He's definitely one of my favorites as well. So we can select him and see what he sounds like in these three different styles. When you are auditioning the different avatars, I always recommend using content, even just a sentence or two from your end script, because this will really give you a better idea of what voice matches your content the most. So let's hear a bit of a snippet from each different style for Wade. So first, let's do narration. I'm just going to click create. Jump into promo, selecting promo up here in the top center, clicking create, and then finally conversation and selecting create. Great. So let's start off with narration and see how he sounds.
Welcome to the WellSaid Labs community. With WellSaid, you and your team can create voiceover for all your digital content.
Great. So definitely the kind of voice that you want like a story to be read to you, right? Next, we have promo.
Welcome to the WellSaid Labs community. With WellSaid, you and your team can create voiceover for all your digital content.
Awesome. So definitely very excited voice there. And then finally, conversational.
Welcome to the WellSaid Labs community. With WellSaid, you and your team can create voiceover for all your digital content.
Awesome. So, more of that kind of informal, just talking with a friend type style. So those were fantastic. However, spoiler alert, my favorite avatar is Tobin. So when I was auditioning the different avatars for creating my final production, I listened to Tobin. I don't know, something about him I just love. So we're going to go with Tobin for that final production. After you audition the different avatars and have those different clips, I always recommend deleting them when you know that they are not going to be used in your final production. This allows you to get those clip credits back to your account, just because you're not going to be using those clips in the end. So great, we have our avatar selected. The next thing you'll want to do is just copy and paste your text into the text box here. So I'm just pulling it from a doc that I have on my other monitor, and I'm going to press enter. So we actually already see an error showing up as I'm inputting my text. And this error says section of text is longer than 1,000 characters. Please shorten the paragraph. So we do have 1,000 character limit on the text box, and this is really just to help with rendering speeds and quality. So I'll actually want to break this into two separate paragraphs and render it into two separate clips. So when I'm thinking of where I want to break this up, I actually know that in my script there is a very natural pause, and I kind of want to even add that dramatic pause after I have that call to action of, in fact, we invite you to speak aloud how you imagine a computer sounds. Seriously, go ahead. After the go ahead, let's have a dramatic pause there to actually have people speak aloud, right? So I'm just going to add in a break here by clicking space twice. And then as you can see, the error message goes away, and I have a line break in here that will render it by both paragraphs. Awesome. So now that I have this all selected, I'm just going to click create and render this audio, and we can hear how it sounds without any edits or adjustments made. And so once I click create, our AI is making predictions of how each word and phrase should be read the most naturally. It usually takes about twice as fast for the audio to be created, meaning if you have like a minute of audio, it takes about 30 seconds for it to create or for it to render. And as you can see, it did just a few seconds ago, which is fantastic. Let's listen to this first part of the audio without any edits or anything made and see how it sounds as is.
Welcome to the WellSaid Labs community. With WellSaid, you and your team can create voiceover for all your digital content. All it takes is one click, and today we'll be learning how. First, let's talk a little about who I am. My name is Tobin, and I'm a WellSaid Labs voice avatar. A voice avatar is an AI-powered narrator that sounds natural. At WellSaid, we create voice avatars using the voices of real people. We work closely with brands and voice actors to design the style and personality of the voice avatar in accordance with the type of content to be produced with it. We then apply our proprietary artificial intelligence technology to convert the narration into a natural-sounding AI model. Synthetic voices are not new. In fact, we invite you to speak aloud how you imagine a computer sounds. Seriously, go ahead.
Okay, great. So the first paragraph sounded pretty good, but from my perspective, in thinking that I'm kind of the director of the voice actor right now, there are a few minor tweaks that I would like to adjust in this. First of all, as you could hear, he pronounced his name, and I know there are probably a few different pronunciations of this name. I would prefer it to be pronounced like Tobin. So let's kind of break down Tobin and figure out how to get that pronounced correctly. So what I'm going to do is just delete all of that text here and focus on the word Tobin. And again, let's just hear it as is, how he pronounces it.
Tobin.
Yeah, so more of a Tobin, and I want Tobin. So in these situations, you want to kind of spell it out phonetically. So I would think maybe like toe, bin, adding in a hyphen there to kind of add in that extra syllable. Let's see how it says.
Tobin.
So honestly, that sounded pretty good, but I actually don't think that that hyphen is necessary. Let's see how that sounds just without it.
Tobin.
Okay, that sounded perfect. So once I have the pronunciation that I'm looking for a specific word or even a phrase, I'm actually going to want to add this to our pronunciation library. So pronunciation library, this allows you to add in specific words or phrases of text with the correct word or spelling that you have, and then have it be pronounced with the phonetic pronunciation that you're looking for. So the word is Tobin, but I want it pronounced Tobin. I'm just going to add that in here, select add, and then this will be auto-populated in all of my future scripts, so I don't need to go in and adjust Tobin moving forward. Once I have that, I can head back to Studio. I'm going to delete these different, the different clips that I created because I know I'm not going to use those. And I want to pull back up that original paragraph that I had. To do that, I can just select the repopulate button, so I don't need to go in and copy and paste the text again. And you can already see here on this pronunciation section on the right where one word is replaced. So Tobin is already replaced. I have the normal spelling that I would usually use, but it will be pronounced how I would like. So that's kind of the first thing that I wanted to make adjustments to in my text. One other is for this kind of third sentence here of all it takes is one click and today we'll be learning how. I kind of wanted to add in another dramatic pause for after all it takes is one click and today we'll be learning how. Whenever you want to add in additional pauses, you'll need to add in some kind of punctuation. So periods, commas, hyphens, spaces, or ellipses. In this situation, I'm just going to add those ellipses there. And then finally, the last section that I kind of wanted to make an adjustment to is this second to last sentence. I kind of wanted to add a bit more emphasis to that call to action of, in fact, we invite you to speak aloud how you imagine a computer sounds. So to add emphasis to a word or phrase, you really just need to add quotation marks to that specific word or phrase. And that tells our AI, hey, pay a bit more attention, or, like kind of put this in bold, really. So I'm going to do, in fact, we invite you to speak aloud how you imagine a computer sounds. Seriously, go ahead. Awesome. So once I've made those adjustments, I'm going to click create again and create that final clip. And so again, as you are kind of creating these final drafts and playing around with how you want the words to sound and the words to be pronounced, really just think of yourself as a director. So it does take some adjustments. It's not going to be perfect every time on the first try or even the second try, but just going around playing with the different punctuations, phonetic spelling, everything like that will be super helpful. So let's hear how this sounds with the adjustments that I've made.
Welcome to the WellSaid Labs community. With WellSaid, you and your team can create voiceover for all your digital content. All it takes is one click. And today we'll be learning how. First, let's talk a little about who I am. My name is Tobin and I'm a WellSaid Labs voice avatar. A voice avatar is an AI-powered narrator that sounds natural. At WellSaid, we create voice avatars using the voices of real people. We work closely with brands and voice actors to design the style and personality of the voice avatar in accordance with the type of content to be produced with it. We then apply our proprietary artificial intelligence technology to convert the narration into a natural-sounding AI model. Synthetic voices are not new. In fact, we invite you to speak aloud how you imagine a computer sounds. Seriously, go ahead.
Great. So after those 3 adjustments that I made, honestly thought that that was perfect, exactly how I would speak it naturally. So this is going to be my final draft. Once you have your final draft, I always recommend renaming these clips. I'm just going to rename this as Welcome Part 1, just to help with your own internal organization and letting yourself know that's a final draft. Also deleting that first draft, again, to get that clip back, as well as not being a bit disorganized. Awesome. So we have our final draft of paragraph 1. Now let's dig into paragraph 2 and see if there's any adjustments that need to be made. Again, I can click that repopulate button for it to appear back up here. And I'm just going to click play as is to see what it sounds like.
Did you just speak like a robot? The way you naturally speak is closer to how a well-said voice avatar sounds. That is the level of humanity we seek to enable. The right voice avatar accomplishes more than simply deploying voice at scale. The right voice avatar captures the essence of the person who lends us their voice to create an AI model. Brands and content creators who care about quality understand the difference between just creating a lot of content and producing the highest quality possible for their audiences to enjoy.
So great. I would say Tobin kind of nailed that one as well, just as is. However, one minor adjustment that I think I would make is just to this first sentence. When we do add questions, the AI sometimes can have difficulty with the intonation of the question, just because when you think about it, intonation of questions can change depending on if it's a yes or no question, if it's an open-ended question, closed-ended question. So it can be a bit difficult. So what I like to do is add in that kind of emphasis to a part of the question that I want to be emphasized. So in this specific example, I would probably read this as, did you just speak like a robot? And so I want to add emphasis around a robot to kind of add in that extra punch there. Other than that, I thought it sounded perfect. So again, I'm just going to click create. This second clip will be my final draft, hopefully, right? And I'll be able to delete that first draft. So let's just have a quick listen to maybe just the first part of it.
Did you just speak like a robot? The way you naturally speak is closer to how a well-said.
Great. And I'll just stop it there because we didn't make any adjustments to the second half. But that's read exactly how I'd like it to. So I'm going to call this my final draft as well of the second paragraph. I'm just going to rename it as Welcome Part 2. And that's good to go. Delete that first draft. And then we have these ready. So as I have the 2 final drafts of my clips, I know that when I put this into my final production, I prefer for this to just be one long clip and not broken down into 2 clips. So I can do that by selecting both clips and combining them. When you combine clips, have the clip that you want to be read first at the bottom. And then so part 1 on the bottom, part 2 on the top, I select combine. I need to name this file. So I'm going to name it welcome, maybe final draft. And you have the ability to add in pausing between the clips. So this will just add in, a second of time or so in between those 2 clips. You can have it be a small pause, a natural pause, or a long pause. As you can remember in this specific audio, I wanted a bit more of a longer pause because I'm adding that, question and need that dramatic pause, right? So I'm just going to select long pause there, create clip. And then as that's rendering, I know that this will be my final draft and good to go. So fantastic. Once I have my final draft, I think it looks great. Maybe now I want the feedback from my team so they can let me know what they think before I put it into my final production. So this is a great place where projects come into play. So projects you can select in the top left corner of Studio. And the best way to think about projects is kind of a way to organize your files and the content that you're creating within Studio, as well as allowing for team collaboration. So if you're on a Teams account, you have the ability to select your project, the menu the menu button on the project. And maybe I just want to select show team. This will make my project visible to all of my teammates so they can go in, they can view the content, they can play the content, and they can download it. One thing to note when you do make your project visible to your teammates, you no longer have ability to edit your project. However, you can go back at any time, hide from team. Once you hide it from your team, then you have those editing abilities again. Another option too is maybe let's say Caroline and I are both working on a project. And so, I created that first part of the content. Now I kind of want to hand things over to Caroline to add in her content to this specific project. I can actually change ownership of this project by selecting the menu button again, clicking edit, and then I can just change the owner to Caroline. Once I change the ownership to her, she will have full ability to edit, download, delete, change up all of the content that I created. And if I want to have that editing ability back, no problem. Caroline will just have to transfer ownership back to me. So great. Again, kind of just the main things to remember with projects: organizing your content, organizing your files, as well as team collaboration there. So let's say I made this visible to my team. They thought it was beautiful and amazing. Of course, no feedback. So now I'm ready to move forward with that final clip and add it to my end production. I can go back to Studio and select download on the clip, and it'll download as an MP3 file. And then I'll essentially be ready to drag and drop in or import to my third-party production tool. So as I was creating this content, I actually just used iMovie. So let's say, I pull up my iMovie, I pull up my file, I just need to drag and drop it over here into my final draft. And then from there, I pretty much just added an image, added music, added in some moving visuals, and then it was ready to go for all of you to view today. So great. That's kind of what I wanted to show with the general breakdown of an end production. So now I actually want to go back to Studio and switch gears a little bit, and let's talk about just some general best practices for pronunciation, some tips and tricks that you might run into. So we're good on this creative session webinar and production that I made. Maybe I'll jump back into projects and create a new project to kind of show this second half. I'm going to name this pronunciation best practices, create project. And then when I jump into Studio, you can see it, the pronunciation best practices shared here for me to create my new content. Awesome. So now I'm just going to kind of drag and drop, copy and paste some sentences in here. And so as I kind of paste this sentence in here and you guys get a look to it, I'm curious what people think that the avatar might have difficulty with in this specific section. Please feel free to add it into the comments where you think that they might have difficulty. And for this, I'm actually going to select maybe a different avatar. I know everyone was saying that they love Ava. I love her too. People think they're going to have difficulty with the numbers and the abbreviation here. Let's see if you guys are right. Great. Let's see what she says.
Australia is wider than the moon. The moon sits at 3,400 km in diameter, while Australia's diameter from east to west is almost 4,000 km.
Great. Okay, so it looks like a lot of you were right. She said the number perfectly, but she did not get the abbreviation of kilometers right. So what we would want to do in this situation is just spell out the word kilometers. And I know that there are probably a few different ways to pronounce this word as well, but I personally say kilometers. So I'm just going to type that out as is and see how she pronounces it without any adjustments to that phonetic spelling.
Australia is wider than the moon. The moon sits at 3,400 kilometers in diameter, while Australia's diameter from east to west is almost 4,000 kilometers.
Awesome. So no need to adjust the phonetic spelling in kilometers. She said it exactly how I would like her to. So what I would want to do in this situation is add that abbreviation to pronunciation. So just adding the KM here and then spelling it out, kilometers, adding to pronunciation. And so this will help me down the road of in my text or in my script, when I just have KM, I don't need to go in and add in the full version of the word. It'll be read automatically. So it'll definitely save me some time and headaches down the road. Awesome. So let's go back here and select another script. Okay. And as I paste it into here, again, feel free to throw in the chat where you think the avatar might have difficulty with. Let's use a different avatar as well. I love Jude as well. Jude is actually one of our South African accent voices. So I really like how he pronounces words. So let's see how he gets this one. It looks like people think that they might have difficulty with the dates and acronyms. Let's see if you guys are right.
The first airplane flew on 12/17/1903. Wilbur and Orville Wright made 4 brief flights at Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, with their first powered aircraft, Aka the first airplane.
Okay, great. So it looks like everyone was pretty much right on that, the dates and the abbreviation. And I would actually make an adjustment too with the comma here. So I know it's grammatically correct to include that comma when you're listing off cities and states and all of that. However, just how I would direct my voice actor to read this, I'm going to do the same for my voice avatar, just deleting that comma to sound a bit more natural. And then jumping into the dates. So dates, maybe that was an easy one, but you always want to spell it out. So I'm going to say December 17th. And if you include that TH, Jude will pick up on it to do the sound. And when it comes to years, so what I usually do, let's say, for example, 2022 is how I would pronounce it. You would just do 20 space 22, and it would be read as is. I know in this example, the year was 1903. So instead of doing 19 space 03, Jude would likely read this as 1903. So I'm actually just going to spell out the word O, 1903, to get it read how I would prefer. And then finally, with acronyms, so a few tips and tricks when it comes to acronyms. A lot of times you can just put in a space or a period between, between the letters to get it read like AKA. However, kind of another tip and trick is that I found that the word A can be read sometimes just like normally in a sentence. So I'm actually just going to spell out the word A with EIGH on both sides. So this will really make sure that it's spelled or pronounced like A instead of A. Awesome. So with those 3 adjustments there, I'm going to click create and see if he's able to pronounce it like I would like him to.
The first airplane flew on December 17, 1903. Wilbur and Orville Wright made 4 brief flights at Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, with their first powered aircraft, aka the first airplane.
Awesome. So that sounded great to me. He did the AKA perfectly. So in this situation, when it comes to dates, if you're using dates a lot, the same date over and over again, you can definitely add it to pronunciation library. But if it's just like today's date or something that you might not be adding or might not be showing up in your text or scripts over and over again, you don't necessarily need to add it to pronunciation library. But I definitely want to add in that AKA acronym because I know I'm going to be using this a lot. So again, I just put in AKA and then type out AKA. Awesome. Great. So let's try a couple more here. Next script that I'll put in. Okay, and as you kind of see a snippet of this, everyone, give me your best thoughts. I'm also going to select a different avatar. Let's see, Tilda. Tilda was the avatar who read to us in the beginning. So, I'm definitely playing favorites again. But yeah, throw in your guesses of what you think she might have difficulty with here. Okay, looks like I'm seeing, those kind of Italian words, especially like Italian cities, the acronyms, all of that. So let's see how she does.
Italy has the most UNESCO World Heritage sites in the world. With gems like the Colosseum in Rome, the city of Pompeii, and the glorious Amalfi Coast, it's no wonder the country receives millions of visitors each year.
Okay, great. So a few different things to adjust here. So first we have this acronym. And even though this is an acronym, I don't want it pronounced like UNESCO, excuse me. I want it pronounced more like the word. So I'm actually just going to change this to UNESCO. That's how I would pronounce it. Also, just taking note, any kind of those like unfamiliar words or words that aren't, cities, states, not common English words. So these Italian cities here can be a bit more difficult for the AI to pick up on. She did nail Colosseum in Rome, so that was good. But the city of Pompeii is how I would pronounce that. So I'm actually just going to change that phonetic spelling, to Pompeii. And then the glorious, I would pronounce this as Amalfi. I know she kind of said like Amalfi or something like that. So I kind of want to elongate those A's a little bit, maybe add an H there, Amalfi. Okay, and sorry if you are an Italian speaker and totally rolling your eyes at me. Again, when you are creating your words and you are the director, so this is how I would want it pronounced. So I'm sorry if you have different opinions. Great. So let's see how she did with these adjustments.
Italy has the most UNESCO World Heritage sites in the world. With gems like the Colosseum in Rome, the city of Pompeii, and the glorious Amalfi Coast, it's no wonder the country receives millions of visitors each year.
Great. So those were perfect. So again, just kind of the last thing you'll want to do is go into pronunciation and add those in here. So let's go, add there. And it was Pompeii. And then finally Amalfi. Kind of wanted it all Amalfi. Awesome. So, I'm going to be talking about these beautiful Italian cities a lot in my scripts in the future. So adding this here is going to save me a lot of time down the road. Fantastic. So I just have one more example to share with you today for pronunciation. Going to pop that in here. Again, give me your best guesses in the chat. I'm going to select another avatar, maybe one of our new ones, Genevieve. I see people think she might have difficulty with the word dopamine. Yep. Oh, Genevieve is some people's favorite. Great. Yeah. Okay. You guys are too smart. You know WellSaid very well, so you can predict which words they might have difficulty with. Great. Let's see what she does.
People are more creative in the shower. When we take a warm shower, we experience an increased dopamine flow that makes us more creative.
Okay, great. Yep. So you guys were all right. I would pronounce this as dopamine. So I'm just going to add in that H there. One thing to note, especially with those kind of longer medical terminology, this can be a bit more difficult for the AI to pronounce how you would like on the first try. So going in and adding that phonetic spelling is usually necessary. Also, just kind of what may seem like a silly tip and trick, but a lot of times I'll just go to Google and Google like correct pronunciation of insert long complicated word, and it will give a lot of great suggestions for just the phonetic spelling of that long word. And I pretty much just copy and paste that into Studio. And a lot of times it's able to get it right. Sometimes you need to make those tweaks to it, but Googling phonetic spelling has been very helpful for me. So again, let's create this and see how it sounds just by adding that dopamine.
people are more creative in the shower. When we take a warm shower, we experience an increased dopamine flow that makes us more creative.
Great. So just by adding in that H there, she was able to get it correctly. So again, just want to add this to my pronunciation library, paste in the phonetic spelling, how the correct spelling of it, and add that there. Fantastic. So those were kind of the main things that I wanted to get through in Studio. Again, to kind of recap, using Studio will be your best bet for just creating all of that content, auditioning the different avatars, playing around with phonetic spelling. Once you find that phonetic spelling, always go into pronunciation library and add that to your library. This will just save you a lot of time down the road and be, really helpful. And then finally, projects, just a great way to organize those different files that you're working on, as well as helping with team collaboration. Great. So I know we do have some time left, and I know that the chat has been blowing up as well as the Q&A section. So I'm just going to stop sharing for now, and we can jump into Q&A. So give me 1 second here as I kind of get situated. And again, if you would like to stay for Q&A, we'd love to have you. Just by looking at this, I'm not sure if I'll be able to get to all of the questions. I see quite a lot in there. But if we aren't able to get to your question right now, please follow up, or we will follow up with you and try to get that answered for you. So we also have, I kind of have a little slide here too for us to cover. If you have any additional questions that we didn't touch on today, you can contact your designated customer success manager, which is myself or my teammate Courtney, or contact us at just support@wellsaidlabs.com. If you're not a WellSaid customer yet, but would like to, you can contact us at sales@wellsaidlabs.com. So
Wonderful.
I'm like out of breath.
Oh, take a drink. You did such a great job. There were so many interesting comments. I loved how everybody was helping each other. You were really saving me a little work because I couldn't keep up with all the interesting ideas flowing through there. So
yeah, I was not able to keep up with the chat. So sorry, people, if you were asking me questions in there. It was a bit overwhelming, but I love the participation. It's great.
All right. Are you ready for some questions, Marta?
Yeah, that sounds great.
Okay. Let's start off with a couple simple ones. Are the voices only in English?
Great question. So yes, our voices are only in English right now. We do have 6 different accents, being, I had that written down, so I remember all the different accents. The South African, American, Canadian, Irish, Australian, and British. However, if you have a different kind of accent or a different language that is not available in Studio right now, we actually do offer custom voice subscriptions. And this custom voice can either be in a language that you would like, or a different maybe character, or just like an own voice for your specific brand. If you would like a custom voice, please reach out to us. You can either contact support or sales@wellsaidlabs.com, and we can talk to you more about what that would require to get that custom voice or additional language set up for you.
Yeah, and those currently we're building in the European languages primarily, but definitely inquire and see what we can do.
Yep.
All right. Another popular one is that pronunciation library that's so helpful. Can we share that with the team?
Yes. And great question. I'm sorry I forgot to ask that or show that. But when you are in pronunciation library, in the top right corner, there's actually an import and export button. So let's say, I'm creating a lot of content, adding a lot of words to my pronunciation library, and I want to save Caroline some time down the road. I can just click export of pronunciation library. It will be exported as a CSV file. I'll just need to send that CSV file to Caroline. You're able to download it, or then you're able to click the import button and import that CSV file with all the pronunciation.
And kind of on that same note of pronunciation, what can people do if they get really stumped on like one of those medical terms or an acronym that they can't get quite right?
Good question. So I would recommend two different options, really. One, we do have help center articles specifically around kind of pronunciation best practices. I know we have a full alphabet in our help center article around acronyms, like, for example, how to get A to be pronounced like A. For every single letter. So that has been extremely helpful. And then we also have a support channel where WellSaid customer success team is always there, happy to help with those kind of pronunciation questions that you might get stumped on. So you can either email us again at support@wellsaidlabs.com, or we have that chat function, which is just in the bottom right corner of Studio that allows you to connect with our support team.
Great. I've seen a lot of different questions related to pacing. Is there a way to adjust pacing in the studio? And if so, what is that like?
Yeah, great question. So we don't have necessarily the abilities to like adjust the speed of the voice within Studio. I recommend using your third party or post-production tool to adjust that speed. One other kind of just minor tip and trick though, is if you have that kind of wanting to add those additional pauses, then I would recommend using punctuation. So those commas, spaces, all of that. And then you can, if you're creating or if you're rendering them into separate clips, when you combine them into the clips at the end, you do have the ability to add that long pause between each clips as well. So those are some kind of workarounds within Studio to add in pauses within the text. However, post-production tool is usually the best bet.
Wonderful. I also see a few questions about the clips. Can you explain a little bit more about when we delete clips, do we get those back in our project account number, or the order of clip combinations and that kind of thing? Just a little bit more detail on that.
Yeah, for sure. So each subscription tier has an allotted amount of clips and projects, but focusing on clips for now, you will only get credited for clips if you either combine clips or if you download them. So as you can see, as I was kind of going through and deleting those clips, whenever I delete them, I will actually get those credits back. And so it will not go towards, my annual or monthly allotment. So that's why I kind of always recommend going in and deleting those clips that you're not going to be using, as well as just knowing only download or combine the clips that you think will probably be your final draft.
Great. Yeah, that's really helpful. I know that's something that's really important depending on your subscription level. You kind of have to keep an eye on those as you're going. Okay, let's see. Another question we had was, can I share renderings with people who are not in my WellSaid Labs account?
So yes and no. So you do have the ability in your project to create a public link. When you create that public link, you can send that to your different teammates that don't have access to WellSaid Studio. However, they only have the ability to view and play the clips. They don't have the ability to download it or edit it or anything like that. If you do want a teammate to have full access to download your content, to have the ability to edit it, the changing ownership that I was walking through, you will need to add that additional person to your team account or just get set up on a team account.
Great. I've seen a couple questions referencing how dark the studio is and if there's going to be an option to have sort of a light mode interface with that. I know that's something, our product team won't let us give dates to things, but I know that's something we're talking about, right?
Yeah, I was going to say that's actually a good question. I'm not sure the answer to it. And I think even if I did, I'm always nervous about giving out like dates for product releases. But honestly, that's great feedback. As a customer success manager, I always love hearing feedback from our customers on adjustments, what you think your life or what you think could make your life easier when using WellSaid. So I'll definitely relay that to our team to be adjusted in the future, as well as, any other feedback that comes up. Looks like audio levels is coming up in the chat a little bit.
Yeah, that's another good question about providing feedback. What are some of the different ways that users can do that? Obviously, you can email any of us anytime. We're a small team and we all talk to each other a lot. So that's one avenue. Do you have other recommendations, Marta?
Yeah, I think the best is just, contacting the customer success team. So if you do have a dedicated customer success manager, feel free to reach out to us directly. Like I said, I love hearing customer feedback. I'm your number one advocate when it comes to WellSaid. So I'll do my best to relay that feedback directly over to my team. And then also you feel free to contact support@wellsaidlabs.com or the chat functionality. And again, we can never make guarantees that all features will be built or timelines on that. So, although we love your feedback, unfortunately unable to get to all of it.
Right. But definitely if we hear the same things over and over and over, that helps raise it on our radar. So
Exactly.
we always have your suggestions on that. Great. How do I upgrade my account or add people to my team? You kind of touched on the sales contact there or customer success.
Yeah, so with the two emails that we have on screen right now, I recommend contacting, your dedicated customer success manager or support if you are a current WellSaid customer. If you are not a current WellSaid customer, or maybe you're just on a trial account for now, I recommend contacting sales@wellsaidlabs.com, and we'll be able to, hop on the phone with you, talk you through the different options, what works best for you and your team to get you all squared away.
Great. And we just have time for a couple more. I'm looking through here. There are some more specific pronunciation questions in terms of like, how do you emphasize a specific syllable of a word, for example?
Yeah, so a few different tips and tricks for that. A specific syllable of a word, if you want to kind of like add in a syllable, I usually do the kind of hyphen or dash in the middle of the word. As everyone saw, as I was kind of trying to get the correct or the pronunciation that I would prefer for Tobin, I added in that dash there. I did end up removing it because I didn't think it was necessary, but a lot of times just having in that dash in the middle of the word will help a lot. Also, just kind of breaking up like one singular word into two parts with a space, that can really help. And then always using the quotation marks that really helps emphasize a word or phrase. You can add that into the middle of a word as well. But I usually recommend just adding the quotation marks around like a whole word or phrase. So I would try probably either the space or the hyphen first. If it's not getting to that pronunciation that you're looking for, then going to the quotation marks.
Yeah, I've also had some luck like capitalizing whole sections of a word. It's kind of interesting how you can play around and see what difference those little adjustments make. And then the other thing I put in the chat is if you get really stumped, you can always ask us for help in the support chat, which is in Studio. Is that, I'm trying to picture it, in the lower right-hand corner?
Yep.
Someone was asking.
Lower right-hand corner, it just kind of looks like a rectangular square with the, I'm trying to think like what the text box. Do you know what I'm trying
Like
to?
little bubble. Yeah.
What is that called? The thing. But yeah, again, we're always happy to help. I personally find like trying to get the pronunciation how I would like it to. It's like a fun challenge. I mean, I understand that sometimes it gets to a point where it's like frustrating. It's like, okay, I've tried like 50 different combinations of this one word, but it's so satisfying when you finally get it pronounced how you would like. So I'm always happy to help. It's kind of a fun challenge.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of questions too about adding emotion to the voices. And I think, you can see some flexibility in that now with these new voice styles we have, but also something we're always tweaking and looking at ways that we could expand that. Again, no promises on when, but do you have any thoughts on like adding emotion or using different styles for those, Marta?
Yeah, so we're really excited about the new conversational style that we just added a couple weeks ago. And so with those three styles, I really just recommend kind of, auditioning more of the avatars. Each avatar has very different styles, even if, let's say, three different avatars all are narration. These are all real voices, and each real voice, has a different style, different kind of an excitement level, different emotions to it. So really go around and audition, each and every avatar to kind of find the one that's perfect for you. And then knowing those differences between the promotional, narration, conversational. Like if you want more of that upbeat, excited type emotion, promo is definitely the style for you. Where, conversational, you want it to be a bit more casual, informal. That's great. Narration, kind of not necessarily like monotone, but, more of just like the storytelling, like relaxing style. But definitely play around, because even if they do have the same style, each avatar has their own, kind of personality and flavor to them.
Wonderful. Well, I want to be respectful of everyone's time and make sure we finish here within the hour. Just as a reminder, if we didn't get to your question, please feel free to reach out to us via email and we can answer those on a more individual level. Also, if you have those feedback suggestions, you have the contact information there. And we will be sending a replay recording of this as well as posting it on our blog. I'm going to be pestering you in all kinds of different ways. Look on the social media. Yeah, we'll have it around. So Marta, thank you so much for going through all of this with us.
Yeah, thank you. And again, I know that there's a lot of questions that came in and the chat is totally blowing up. So I'm sorry I didn't get to everyone's, but we're always happy to help. We'll definitely get back to you with any questions that were unanswered. Feel free to reach out to me directly. If you have any feedback for me on this presentation, I'd love to hear it. Feel free to be harsh, critical. I don't know, I can handle it. That's fine. Or just tell me it was perfect. That works too. Praise is also welcomed, right? Great. Awesome. Thank you all so much.
Bye, everyone.